Everything started with an entrance no one forgot. Kid Cudi walked through the courtroom doors wearing a leather jacket, a plain white t-shirt, dark sunglasses. He moved slowly, confidently, almost defiantly. The reporters whispered. Security agents followed his every move. When he took his seat at the witness stand, the room froze. He was no longer a celebrity. He was a witness. The silence was absolute as he began to speak. He didn't tell a story. He carved into the silence with memories, his connection to Cassie, the panic of a 5 a.m. call, the fear in her voice. Diddy had just discovered their relationship. She was scared. Cudi immediately took her in, got her safely to a hotel, but just a few hours later, his phone rang again. A trembling, panicked voice, Capricorn Clark. She was with Diddy outside Cudi's house. She said she had been forced to go with him. And Diddy was inside. He jumped in his car. When he arrived, he immediately sensed something was wrong. The security cameras had been moved. The gifts he had left on the table were opened. But the worst was his dog, Luna, locked in the bathroom, curled up, shaking, silent. He grabbed his phone and called Diddy. "I'm at your house," Diddy answered calmly, but he was already gone. Cudi didn't hesitate. He called the police. He filed a report. This wasn't a burglary. It was an intrusion, a warning. And just days later, the warning became a threat. His Porsche 911 exploded in his driveway. A Molotov cocktail thrown on the roof. The fire consumed everything. Charred bodywork, scorched seats, a shattered bottle on the ground. It was a message. He had no doubt. When the prosecutor asked if he believed Diddy was behind it, he didn't blink. "I knew he had something to do with it." Immediately, the lawyers objected. The judge instructed the jury to disregard the comment. But it was too late. The words were out, and they carried weight. What followed in court was just as striking. Kid Cudi recounted a meeting arranged in Los Angeles. Diddy was waiting in a private room. He stood there, silent, hands clasped behind his back. Cudi entered, tense. Diddy spoke calmly, offered him a glass of water, twice, as if nothing had happened. He spoke of Cassie, called her his girl. Cudi stared at him, then asked, "And my car?" Diddy smiled. "I don't know what you're talking about." Years later, in the same place, they crossed paths again. Diddy apologized, coldly, vaguely. But for Cudi, that was enough. He moved on. The court didn't. When Kid Cudi left the stand, another figure stepped forward, less known to the public, but vital to the prosecution. George Kaplan, 34 years old, Diddy's former executive assistant. He walked in with restraint, wearing an olive green suit, a serious look. He wasn't there for revenge. He was there to testify. He began by describing his years in the shadow of the star. An exhausting pace, endless days, constant travel, hotels booked under fake names, Frank Black, Orion Lopez, Jackie Starr, specific requests, scented candles, bottles of lubricant, systematic cleanups. Everything had to be erased, even bodily fluids, even smells. Kaplan didn't talk gossip. He described procedures, instructions, silence. Then he recalled a private jet flight to Las Vegas. On board, Diddy, Cassie, and some team members. Kaplan sat in the back, separated by a partition. Suddenly, a crash, shattered glass. He got up. He saw Cassie on the floor, Diddy standing over her, a glass in his hand. Cassie screamed, "Can't you see what's happening?" No one moved, not even Kaplan. He was 23. He looked down and froze. Later, in a hotel room, he saw Cassie crying, a bump on her forehead. Diddy entered and asked for witch hazel, something to make the marks disappear. Kaplan obeyed, without a word. He also recalled another scene, this time with Gina, another partner. Diddy threw apples at her. She tried to shield herself. Kaplan witnessed it all, and again said nothing. He brought the bag of medicine upstairs, then left, obedient. It was only much later that he spoke. To Christina Korm, Diddy's chief of staff. She listened, she was sad, but she did nothing. So, he resigned, went back to live with his mother, a broken man, a key witness. In the courtroom, the audience was stunned. Each word chipped away at the image of the successful producer, and the prosecution kept building patiently, piece by piece. Then a woman stepped forward, Mila Morales, celebrity makeup artist, petite, energetic, with a composed voice. What she recounted sent chills through the courtroom. One night in February 2010, Grammy Awards weekend, she was sleeping in a room at the Beverly Hills Hotel with Cassie. In the middle of the night, the door burst open. Diddy stormed in, furious. He screamed, "Where is she?" Mila froze. She heard shouting, then silence. When Diddy left the room, Mila found Cassie, her face swollen, one eye puffy, a split lip, a lump on her forehead. Mila took her in, brought her home. Cassie stayed there for several days. A doctor came. He suspected a concussion, but they didn't go to the hospital. Cassie was scared. Mila, too. She would later admit fearing for her own life, and that's why she never called the police. Too much risk, too much power on the other side. Her testimony was brief but undeniable. It confirmed Cassie's account, and it revealed another truth. The silent witnesses, paralyzed by fear and loyalty. Then the last witness of the day took the stand, a hotel manager. He brought documents, reservations made under aliases, Frank Black, Jackie Starr, Orion Lopez. Internal annotations, always schedule deep cleaning, pour wax, use lots of oil. These weren't proofs of violence, but they were evidence of habits, of methods, a repeated, hidden, calculated modus operandi. And all of it, according to the prosecution, served one goal: maintaining control over the women, over the image, over the narrative. But it wasn't over, because the 9th day of the trial still held a surprise, a distraction attempt, a strategic move. The defense tried to submit a photo of Cassie in revealing clothing, a professional stylized shot, nothing explicit, but to Diddy's lawyers, it could cast doubt, suggest consent, make her look provocative. The prosecution exploded. Immediate objection. They called it a shameful attempt to discredit a victim. Because she wore a low-cut dress, because she posed for a photo shoot. The judge ruled the photo would not be shown to the jury. It added nothing except a subtle poison, a manipulation of perception. Behind the scenes, live polls exploded. One question kept coming up. Do you believe Diddy really blew up Kid Cudi's car? The results were overwhelming. Over 80% said yes, because it was no longer just about emotion. The facts were speaking. The Molotov cocktail, the moved cameras, the terrified dog. Capricorn Clark's call, the testimonies aligning, the puzzle was forming, and at the center, a now-shaken figure. Then a name emerged, like a red thread, a missing key. Capricorn Clark, former assistant to Diddy, present that night, in the car, outside Kid Cudi's house. She was the one who called. Her voice was trembling. "They're in your house." She was supposed to remain in the background, but now everyone was waiting for her. What she might say, or refuse to say. In the courtroom, everyone held their breath. Capricorn Clark had not yet been called, but her shadow loomed over every word, every silence. The jurors knew. They had heard her name, her role, her panicked call. And now, all eyes were on her. She alone could confirm Diddy's presence at the scene. She alone could attest to the fear, the pressure, the intrusion, maybe even the criminal act. But she had not yet spoken. And maybe that was the heaviest part: the waiting, the void, the suspended testimony that could shift the course of the trial. The prosecution saw her as a key piece, a credible voice, a direct witness, but the defense knew it too. And if she were to speak, if she confirmed everything Kid Cudi had described, then the thin thread of presumed innocence could snap. Silence became a weapon, a tension, a crack in the strategy. And yet, despite this uncertainty, one thing had become clear. This trial wasn't just about one man. It was about an empire, a system, a machinery of domination built on fear, loyalty, and silence. And that silence was starting to crack. Each witness eroded it further. Each day, the foundations of Diddy's public image crumbled. The icon blurred. The man was exposed. As the days in court continued, a devastating structure emerged. What the prosecutors were exposing was no longer just a string of testimonies. It was a system, a network, an orchestrated operation where every role, every silence, every action served one goal: protect Diddy, protect his power, bury the consequences. The testimony of the hotel manager, Frederick Zamor, echoed chillingly what Kaplan had revealed. Aliases used repeatedly, guest profiles annotated by staff, always pour wax, use plenty of oil, request a deep clean after every checkout. At first glance, logistical details. But for the prosecution, they proved a pattern. Nothing was left to chance. Everything was orchestrated. Diddy controlled his environment down to the last drop of burned perfume. And that control didn't stop at hotel rooms. It extended to people, those around him, those who served him, those who feared him. Mila Morales, the makeup artist, returned to the stand. Again, this time she described a very specific night. February 2010, Grammy Awards weekend. She and Cassie were asleep at the Beverly Hills Hotel until Diddy burst in, screaming, looking for Cassie. What Mila heard next were screams, dull thuds, then silence. When she dared to go in, Cassie was there, bruised, a swollen eye, a split lip, a bump on her forehead. Mila took her to her own home, a mile away. Cassie stayed for days. A doctor came, suspected a concussion, but Cassie refused to go to the hospital. She said nothing to the police, too scared. Mila stayed silent too, out of fear of him. What Mila said on the stand wasn't just a memory, it was an admission, her own, that she hadn't spoken up sooner, but it was also proof that Cassie had sought refuge, that she had run, and that she had been hurt. But at the heart of this 9th day, a quiet tension grew in the room. It didn't come from a scream or a shocking photo. It came from a name whispered by attorneys, scribbled by journalists. Capricorn Clark, former assistant to Diddy, close to Cassie, a potential witness in the most explosive allegation. The night Kid Cudi's Porsche was reduced to ashes by a Molotov cocktail. Because if what Cudi said was true, Capricorn was there, in the car, with Diddy. When they went to Cudi's house, she was the one who called him, terrified, to say that Diddy and another man had entered his home. She was the one who whispered, "I'm scared," over the phone. She could be the one to confirm Diddy's presence, to say she had been forced to go, that there was intent, a plan, a threat. Her silence for now is a suspended shadow. But everything points to her speaking soon, and then everything could change. The prosecution knows it. The defense is preparing for it. The jurors hold their breath, because if Capricorn speaks, if she confirms what Cudi, Kaplan, and Morales have revealed, then this will no longer be a matter of doubt, no longer a matter of interpretation. It will be a chain, a system, a machinery of fear, and Diddy will no longer be its glorified center. He will become its orchestrator,